How about we go ahead and get started? I'm sure anybody else who can be here will hop in. I missed February's meeting, so welcome to anyone that I didn't get a chance to see prior. We'll do intros quickly. I would like to do intros pretty much every time because there's generally a new face. And so the institutions we're at, pronouns if you're using them, and anything else you'd like to share about yourself. So my name is Ariel Leggett. I am at Rutgers University as the Associate Director for Residence Education. So I manage LLCs, DEI, and Residence Hall Association, National Residence Hall Honorary. And I am the ACUHO-I Research Committee Chair. And this is actually, I've been involved with ACUHO-I just for the last couple months, so actually not very long. So I'm going to go ahead and popcorn to Tori.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. Tori Nagash. I am the Research Initiatives Manager at ACUHO-I, and through that position, I am the staff liaison for the Research Committee, as well as the Campus Housing Index Engagement Committee, mouthful there. In the products I manage would be the funded research grant. So one of the things that the committee assists with, and then endorsed research, which is another, and then the campus housing index, which would be with the other committee. And I'm now in year 4 with ACUHO-I, so as of January. I guess I should pick someone. Let's see. I'm gonna choose Bailey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bailey Stickbauer, and I am an Associate Director for Res Life at East Carolina University. And this is my first year a part of this committee, but I've been heavily involved in the Academic Initiatives Committee prior. And I've been involved with ACUHO-I on and off, I would say, for like 6 to 7 years now. So, yeah. All right. I feel like I need like a fun fact to share. Like, I feel like I'm missing something else, but,
Go ahead
no,
and share it if you want. Go ahead and share
my
it.
afternoon little piece of chocolate to help get me through. But I'm going to pass it off to Ben.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Ben Wicker, he, him, his pronouns. I'm at Florida State University. I am new to this group and new to this environment. I will admit that I have some selfish reasons for joining. I'm beginning again dissertation and doctoral process this summer, and so I'm trying to get plugged in here to help drive where my research is going to be headed. So most recently, interesting fact, I just rolled off as the president of ACUHO. So glad to be here with you all today. I'm going to popcorn over to Curtis.
Good afternoon. My name is Curtis Nash. I am Associate Director of Housing and Residence Life at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. I've been a member of ACUHO-I for, about 10 years now. I've been pretty active with assisting with the funded research reviewers for the past, 3 or 4 years. This is my first year being pretty active within this committee, and just excited to be here. I am going to call on Mez.
Morning, folks. There my fingers, waving your general direction. I'm Mez. I'm at North Island College on Vancouver Island in BC. I'm also coming to you from the comfort of my home, which is quite pleasing. It's not often I get to do that. I'm the Associate Director of Student Life and Housing. And housing's in brackets because we're actually building right now, and our first housing building. So super excited about that, opening for September. I think, yeah, I'm a researcher by training, a student housing professional by accident. And I just wanted to be with some peeps that, I was going to be comfortable with and get back into some work we've been doing for a while. So that's my motivation for being here. Oh, I need to find folks. I need to find someone. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna zip down my screen. I can see. I don't think Paul's gone yet. Um,
I have it. Thank you. Hi, my name is Paul Hubinski. I use he, him pronouns. I serve as Director for Strategic Initiatives and Planning and Residential Services at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And I would say, like Ben, I've been involved with ACUHO-I for a while, but I became more involved in the past couple of years. I'm also a doctoral student and finished my interviews, and I'm analyzing data now. So this committee is fun to connect with to spark some new ideas there. And I will turn it over to Ebony.
Hello, my name is Ebony Edwards. I am a graduate student for the College of Student Affairs. I'm also an Assistant Resident Life Coordinator for the first year area here on the New Brunswick side on Cook Douglas. And I am a budding professional, but also a budding doctoral student. That's what I intend to do next. So like Paul and Ben have said before me, I definitely want to kind of gain some insight on what the process looks like from this end and kind of see what the landscape is like. And yeah, happy to be here. It's my first year. I know nothing, but I'm happy to be here. Oh, I will pass it on to, did Jessica go yet? Jessica? Did you go?
Thank you. Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Kilgore. I use she, her pronouns. I currently serve as the Associate Director of Residence Life and Housing at Willamette University in Salem, Oregon. I just saw this in the newsletter like 2 days ago, and I was like, I'm interested. So here I am. And I was a part of ACUHO previously, but I took a few years where I worked in student conduct. So I took a little break from ACUHO-I. And I'm back now, and I'm trying to find out where I'd like to get involved and be a little bit more active. So that's what I'm here for. I will pass it on to Ben Keating.
So hi everyone, Ben Keating. I'm a senior program coordinator at Rutgers University. I work with Ebony and Dr. L. Apologies for being a little bit late here, but motivation for being here is also looking into PhD programs and hoping to kind of progress up towards a director of residence life position. So something that I feel like would benefit me in my long-term career. And I apologize I was late, so I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. Weimer Alberto. I'm the Vice President for Industry Relations here at GradGuard, former residence life and housing professional. And I'm here just to get tapped into the community here, see what great work ACUHO-I is doing with regards to research. Part of my role is integrating research into like the fabric of what we do as a company, so that our company is grounded in what the industry is doing and what's important to them. So I'm just really here to be a fly on the wall and to support all of you and learn more about what ACUHO-I is doing in this area. I'm not sure who hasn't gone, but if you haven't, feel free to hop on.
think, well, before the next person speaks, Alberto, can you say a little bit more about what GradGuard is? I am not familiar with that at
Yes,
all.
think of us as kind of like one of the corporate partners. So we're a tech-enabled insurance company. So we work with 650 schools across the country on just to make sure the students are protected from things that may disrupt their education. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to make it a pitch, but yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Christiana, I saw you just popped on. If you're able to speak, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? I have my headphones in,
Yes.
so I'm not sure. Oh, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Christiana. I am the Residence Life Coordinator for the University of Oklahoma in Loretto. I think I heard people, giving fun facts. I don't know if this it's an obvious fun fact, but I'm currently in Florence because I work in Italy, and that's why I'm in transit going back to the residential hall that I manage. Um, yeah, I'm fairly new to ACUHO-I. I was a reviewer for Pleasant Growth, and but I'm also fairly new to the field, so I love being in committees like this that help inform me about what's you know going on with the field, and I'm keeping updated. I like to keep updated this way. So, and I'm a social scientist by training, so I love this. So yeah, I'm really excited about the work we're gonna get to do together. So,
Thank you. I think Leah, right? Or Leah.
Yeah, it's Leah. Yeah, so my name's Leah Dykeman. I work as the associate director at William and Mary. I've been on one of these calls beforehand as well. I missed last month, but I'm really hoping to just get involved. My fun fact is I actually just got accepted to the ACUHO-I Leadership Academy for this cohort, so I'm excited. And I've never really been involved in ACUHO other than attending, and so I'm just trying to get in there and get involved as much as I can. So.
Thank you. I think that is everyone. So we'll jump into it. I just wanted to say, I know it feels a little bit hokey, very res lifey, to do the intros every time, but I'm hoping to make this more of a community space, so that you are getting to learn your colleagues, that you can tap and ask questions, and that hopefully you want to stay connected. So it's not just about the work. And as I mentioned, that I'm relatively new to this committee, so it's definitely a learning space for me. So folks like Paul and Vaughn and Curtis, folks who have been in the work for a while, definitely want to, we're all learning, right? So for today, we're working on our priorities discussion. And Janie said she won't be here, feeling a little under the weather, but the prompt is essentially, do we want to utilize all of what has been provided, or do we want to narrow down our focus? So we're just continuing the discussion from February. And for anyone who, you're just curious and you want to take a look at previous conversations, these are all being recorded, so you're welcome to review previous meetings via the links in the YouTube. But Tori has noted or dropped the Future Profession Imperatives report and the link, so feel free to click on that. So the conversation we're having today is, what are we making our priority for the research committee? And it sounds like from the last meeting that we said that perhaps we want to look at the Future Profession Imperatives report and utilize those as opposed to using something else, but that's still on the table as well. Okay, note that creating inclusive communities has recently been renamed to increasing belonging. So I will stop speaking now. Oh, you know what, before we move on, I believe like no question is a stupid question kind of thing. And I had asked Tori prior to this conversation, so then what, right? We identify what these priorities are, and then what do we do with said priorities? So Tori, if you could just give a little bit about that, and then we'll move into the discussion.
Sure. So the bottom line, I suppose, is that the research priorities are supposed to guide ACUHO-I's focus in terms of both the research we conduct and the research we support or sponsor. And so in terms of this committee, thinking about the funded research grant, proposals that we fund would be ones that are tied to currently a future of the profession imperative. In the future, once we have these revised imperatives, it would be research that is tied to one or more of those research priority areas. Same for endorsed research. We would want that research to align with the thinking that we've identified these priorities as areas that we really feel are important for the profession and for research about the profession at this time. And so we want to support and further work that is in those areas. prior to when I started at ACUHO-I, we did partner with other organizations or researchers to conduct sponsored research. I believe there's still information on our website about those prior projects. And so that's something that could potentially happen in the future, but any work in that area would also align with our priorities. And I feel confident because the future of the profession imperatives are tied as well with ACUHO-I's strategic plan, that if we align our research priorities with the future of the profession, whether that means all of them, some of the imperatives, whether it's word for word the same or just the spirit, that we say this is an important area and it fits under one of these imperatives. That it's also going to align with the strategic plan, which is an important consideration too. So hopefully that's helpful.
And something else you had mentioned is in our conversation is when we identify, for example, the webinars that we would want to perhaps think about something that's connected to the, what our priorities are, right? And that
Yes.
is also on the table for either today's discussion, depending how far we get, or April's discussion for us to identify what the webinars that this group is going to produce. So.
Yes.
All right, so the floor is open.
With the 8 imperatives, is there a hierarchy of those that have been deemed more important than the others that can maybe help guide our thinking?
Yes, so I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a hierarchy. I could say that in terms of interest or engagement from members and others, it seems that the workforce sustainability is a high interest area, thinking in terms of like Campus Home Live and session proposals. There were a lot aligned with that area. Thinking of research from before we even really had these, but just in the past few years, a lot of it could fit under that sort of umbrella of workforce sustainability. And I do think it's a timely topic, but I would not say that any of them are necessarily ranked or that there's any sort of hierarchy. It was more a determination of these being just the 8 most important topics, broad topics at this time for the profession. That probably doesn't make a decision any easier. Which is, I guess, why the discussion is, should we have 8 research priority areas or do we need to refine that more?
And I love for folks to think about what you're seeing on your campus, what you're hearing, and help that inform your decisions as well.
Do any of the 8 imperatives, do we think that any of them might already align with some of our current research priorities? And if they connect, those might be some natural ones just to continue, but to reframe.
Could you speak to that? Oh, sorry. No, Ebony, go ahead. And then Tori, if you have any thoughts on Curtis's questions.
Going through some of the list of sorry, one second. Just in terms of the impact of a sense of belonging, I have noticed I'm currently also doing a sense of belonging assessment for a course. And it would be nice to see research for a sense of belonging just because there seems to be a dip in engagement. For the students, especially in the first year area, we've had a chance to talk about that. We've had a chance to talk about where they would like to see more of themselves around campus. Given current events, they do feel a lack of sense of belonging from the conversations that we've had. It would be nice to see research that goes into how to keep them engaged and how to keep them involved, and also how to keep them in the school to completion. So I do think that amongst the students, especially when you get into that first year area, there's been a lot of talk about not feeling a sense of belonging. So for me personally, I would love to see more of that.
Ebony, did you see that anywhere in particular in the report? Section.
So here, oop, did I mute myself? I hope not.
No, I hear you.
Okay, great. So I was looking here, publications and reports for the impact of a sense of belonging in college. Implications for student persistent retention and success. I was looking into,
What page is that?
yeah, that page is page 3.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tori, you on?
Yes, I was just going to say in terms of the current, and thank you, Paul, for putting those in the chat, the current research priorities. I think Vaughn had a good point about this at the last meeting because he was involved with developing years ago the current priorities that public-private partnerships is probably the one he called out, and I think I agree that isn't necessarily as relevant just because it's not necessarily something new or emerging anymore. And his point was more, like student outcomes, student success, and I agree with this too, are very broad. And I think would always be relevant. But I think to your point, Ebony, so creating inclusive communities has now been renamed to increasing belonging. I think that student success fits and aligns with that. I think that also could be probably worked under workforce sustainability if, we're looking at not necessarily students moving into higher education positions after they graduate, but entering the workforce after they graduate along that line. So I think, yes, that one could definitely be furthered. And I think student outcomes, again, strengthening mental health could probably align with that. The belonging as well. I think there's definitely lines we could draw between the current and the future of the profession imperative. It's, I guess, just maybe a change in language more than meaning necessarily. That's sort of what I'm thinking there. I guess I'll also say communicating campus housing's value, given the current landscape in the United States, the dialogue around higher education, I feel like continuing to further the conversation around the value of campus housing, why it's important, is valuable. I think that we should consider choosing that or something along those lines as one. And maybe it's even broader than just communicating campus housing's value, but I don't know exactly what that would look like, but the value of higher education, I guess is my thinking. But obviously we're focused more on the campus housing portion of that, but why that's an important part of higher education and of the student experience. So that, I guess that's my 2 cents there.
What's percolating for folks? What are you thinking?
Just some topics that kind of pop in my mind, but none are like screaming a theme yet. Just kind of pay equity. I was thinking about live-in staff and whether that is kind of moving. I know there's a lot of people moving like to 10 months, or the question of do we need live-in staff anymore? So that's just things that are popping in my mind. Then I think about org structures and how some are facility based, and then there's a residential team. And then I was thinking when Tori was talking, just kind of the residential spaces, and because we are building P3s here, and a lot of our buildings have built-in common spaces for that kind of natural, organic kind of collaboration that some of our other buildings don't have. And so I think that also talks about like housing equity across campuses too. Just some things that pop in my head.
Can you say again, the second one was org structures?
Yes, just kind of like so how some I've been at different, different institutions where they're kind of mapped out differently. So here we have a residence, like we have residence life, it's its own branch. We fall under campus living, but then facilities is managed by a completely different team. So we have all the living things we like to say, and then they have all the non-living things. And so I just think that how that impacts is different depending on where you're at.
Thank you, Leah.
Hearing that, I was thinking about our live-in staffing structure and how, especially pre-pandemic and, for my generation, at least, it was always the pattern that you were looking for live-in staff who had gone through a master's program, ideally in higher education, college student personnel, counseling, something like that. And how I think we're moving further and further from that pattern. So I think that there's a couple of things in that, and part of that is, the status of those student personnel, MED type programs, and then and how they're preparing those students and how they're recruiting those students. I think part of that also has to do with us, just kind of refilling the funnel as well. But also I think, I know that I've heard of more and more programs who are moving away from graduate level positions or moving away from requiring a master's degree into that entry level position. So I think that the way we have traditionally thought about those entry level positions is shifting. But I would be curious to see more on that and see, what is everybody actually doing right now.
I also think that brings up just a point for me is emergency response and how it's changed. There's a lot of things that like at this institution we don't deal with at all. Like our live-in staff do not respond to calls when it comes to mental health crises. And I feel like that's becoming more and more just because of the gravity of mental health. And I don't know if we should have been doing it in the first place, but so like considering our emergency response and our personnel, and then that brings me to like whether we need live-in staff, and like I've reaped the benefits of living on too, but I know that there's less things that they're responding to because we realize that it's not really fair for somebody of like this training and this background to have to be held responsible for such grave situations.
And I think some of the points that Ben and Leah mentioned, those appear to be mentioned in the future of the profession and that workforce sustainability. So I wonder with each one of those topics, those 8 topic areas, if we can highlight one or two and pick out and say, okay, within workforce sustainability, here are the 1 or 2 things that we would want research to be focused on. Because the very first one is, do campus residence halls need live-in staff? And because there's a lot that goes into that. And then generational differences and the impact on the workforce for number 2. So I think a lot of what we're saying kind of might fit into some of those buckets. So identifying what those buckets are and picking some of those and filling them up might be fruitful.
Yeah, thanks, Curtis. As folks were speaking, I'm like, yep, workforce sustainability. It just kept going back to that. But I think it would be okay to also leave it broad, and not necessarily narrow it down, or maybe it's that with, you know, the listed items beneath them. Um, yeah. Any other thoughts that maybe you want to echo what's been said or take us in a different path? Because right now it seems like the sense of belonging and the workforce sustainability are the major pieces, maybe some mental health.
I would, yeah, I would also really like to sort of second with Tori the value of campus housing. And I also see how in the priorities list that like the business model of higher ed falls into that sort of like larger bucket as well. But I think many institutions are trying to showcase their housing and the importance of that, and that helps with, you know, enrollment and admitted students and housing contracts, which have really been sort of popping off on some of the discussion boards over the last couple of months as well.
Thanks, Bailey. So let me ask the question, from that list, is there anything that you feel absolutely should not be listed for us? Maybe that's a easier way to go since we have so many options.
These are tough questions. And I think what's interesting sometimes is when we look at, sorry, I'd like to slip beyond some. Actually, all you see right now is the top of my head.
Mez, I can't. You sound garbled. I don't know if I'm the only one hearing that. You sound like you're speaking underwater.
Oops, let me try to fix that.
Would you mind typing it in the chat? Thank you, sorry.
As she's typing, I think the priority of like learning as an organization to me is inherent in the work that we do. And so I feel as though that of the 8 could sort of be eliminated as a topical area, because I feel that is in all of our work. Sort of.
Hey,
We have a second. I hear something. I see eyes
I think it's
blinking.
harder to limit research, but I think we've had a lot of dialogue surrounding mental health. And so if that wasn't one of our priorities, I wouldn't be upset. But I know that, like, regardless, that is a very important topic. But I feel like that's a topic that has gotten a lot of attention.
I also wonder, like, how much of that is something that we have capacity to do. Generally, we're not counselors. I mean, I think that there's some space for it, but I don't know if it makes sense as like you're saying, Leah. I don't know if it makes sense as a main research priority, because it's not ours in a way that some of these other things really are. And not that it doesn't impact us, and we're obviously seeing it in our buildings and want to work toward it, but it doesn't feel as directly related to campus housing in the way that maybe it would to a counseling center.
I appreciate that, because I know from the last conversation that was had was what can we do more of, or those areas that are not well researched for this group to consider moving into that territory, as opposed to things that have been discussed for quite some time at this point. So I don't know how other folks feel about perhaps removing the mental health.
Yeah, I think a case could be made for that fitting under some of the other areas too. So not being its
Mhm.
own standalone bucket, but sort of being a part of, um, increasing belonging and a part of workforce sustainability and um, that that type of thing. So it could be maybe like a bullet underneath in some capacity, but not its own standalone area.
Anything else folks are not feeling particularly passionate about?
I wonder if we could change like the facility design and maintenance to maybe just organizational design and kind of hitting more broader research and kind of umbrellaing that.
Yeah, and I wonder if org design is also listed somewhere else within the aid. So, a good question. I'm trying to read what's in the comments. I'm behind. Mhm. Thanks for that, Paul. Ebony, your aspect of the main topic, which one was that referencing?
Oh, that was about mental health.
Okay.
I was agreeing with Tori that, I think I don't think it's a portion that really could be its own thing when it comes to residence life research and how that would be impacted. But I do think that it's an important part, just maybe not the entirety of it, maybe a portion that can help leverage what the main topic is.
Yeah. And Christiana had a thought as well, but the service is bad now.
Yeah, Paul noted that org structure does fall under workforce sustainability. I was going to say the same because I just found it. And there is something also about staff well-being. So that could get at the mental health aspect there, also under workforce sustainability. And compensation as well is under there.
Christiana, I know you said your service is bad now. If it's not in this very moment, would you be able to elaborate on your thought? I can hear you.
Okay. So I was thinking,
Just kidding, can't hear you. No, it's very crackly. Yeah, okay. So I know we're kind of like, it sounds like we haven't made decisions, but I think from what I heard, I would be willing to whittle it down and come to a decision and bring it back to the group. Tori, I don't know if you're feeling similarly or you want to have further discussion about this.
Yeah, I guess there's three I think I hear as maybe leading the conversation. So workforce sustainability, increasing belonging, and communicating the value of or campus housing's value of campus housing, however you want to say that. I think those are the three. Well, in the organizational design, but I think that sort of fits under workforce sustainability. Um, I'm just wondering how we would want to bring this back to the full group, if we would want to do some type of like comment period where we say like these are sort of what's come out of our discussion. Do we want to do like a survey of folks to get some more feedback? I know that's something we had discussed previously, and I sort of wanted to wait and see how this discussion went before deciding if that was a good next step or a necessary next step. I don't know how folks feel about that.
You presented to, when you say outside,
Yeah,
who
so I
exactly are you
guess,
thinking?
yeah, I think initially would we want, since not all of the research committee is here today and is able to be present for this conversation, if we'd want to sort of report it out to the listserv or to the online community, both to those who are involved with the committee, and ask for them to sort of comment or provide feedback since they weren't here for this conversation, and then move forward from there. If we'd want to do more of like a survey, and it could be a survey of the research committee folks rather than like all of ACUHO-I, just to get some more initial thoughts and feedback about where we're at. I guess that's what I was thinking, is it, if that sounded good, a good next step, necessary, what thoughts were.
Yeah, I think sharing this with the entirety of the research committee sounds like a great idea, to type out those three with some specificity and gather that feedback, probably in some sort of form where there's some anonymity. It doesn't necessarily have to be, people might be discouraged by submitting some dissenting opinion publicly, but if you have it on a form, they may be willing to give us their full thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do a very brief Qualtrics survey, with the anonymous submission function enabled so that there's no, requirement to submit a name or no information tracked there. Just to say sort of where we've, maybe the beginning is this is where we're at in terms of the conversations we've had, and that we'd like additional feedback, and just make it sort of open-ended. We could also ask specifically, would you agree with these as being the three? Would you have additional suggestions or ideas? However you'd want to do that.
We have concepts of a plan.
I also think maybe, I don't know that anyone would view the recording of our conversation, but to at least make that public, like, for some greater context for why these are the three, do a 2 times watch of this video, 2 times speed to make it through there. So that could be helpful.
I've also been taking notes, but yeah.
Yeah. And just as a side note, I am working to get more information added to our website, so that when you go to the research area, you're able to find links to these reports and YouTube playlists and things, so that it's sort of more of a one-stop place to find all research related items versus I feel like some of the things are a little hidden. And so I'm trying to centralize it a bit more. So just as an FYI, that hopefully they'll be appearing on that page soon. But yes, I think if we do a survey or any kind of email outreach about this, that we should link to this recording and probably the one from February too, just because we also had an initial discussion about the future of the profession and the existing priorities, just in case anyone's interested.
And I would be interested in wrapping this up relatively soon, so that we can move forward. Although, you've already edited the document for the funded research, right? So that's a moot point, but for us not to belabor this.
We could
Okay.
definitely put a timeline on that, comment period, if we want to call it that, before we then revisit, what the feedback was and what the next steps are.
Mhm.
Whether it's a couple weeks or whatever we think is reasonable. And most of our surveys that we send out from ACUHO-I, we leave open for about 2 weeks, but sometimes up to a month, depending on, the situation. But I'd say no more than a month, and probably 2 to 3 weeks is like a sweet spot, where we could open it and send a couple reminders.
I'm on board for that. So if no one else has anything to say on this piece, we'll move on to, I see you, Christiana. If you could provide more information or the updates, Tori, on some of the things that we discussed in our prior meeting. So like, for example, the reports, I know that we said that that was something that we initially wanted this group to manage, but that might look a little different. So if you could share that.
Yeah. And Christiana was kind enough to meet with me, make time so that we could talk about some ideas. And I appreciate that. And we have another time scheduled to connect again soon. Essentially, we're still going to be putting out reports, research reports this year. Just maybe another step or two involved in that process. We're just being very thoughtful internally at ACUHO-I in our messaging and content that's going out. And so just sort of an extra layer of review before things are published publicly. And so I still welcome ideas and partnership with anyone who's interested in working on report writing, has ideas, but we would have a discussion and then it would sort of be, hey, I'm going to run this by, internally to see, if not, probably more of how we want to frame this than not doing something, because all of our data is important to share out. So I guess that's the best way to put it, is just, we want some more eyes on things before things go out right now. And so that's one, but definitely still welcome partnership and even if it's just, I have this great idea, or my campus is looking for information about this, and maybe that would make a great report. Whatever it is, welcome that. So if you're not like, hey, I really want to write a research report, you don't have to. But I welcome the ideas just the same. So that was one. And Ariel, I was gonna pull up our notes again because I don't think I have that file open anymore to see what the other ones were to talk about.
I can list them and then you can say more. Okay.
Sure.
I think you mentioned linking the YouTube video to connections, adding YouTube to the funded research grant website. So with the past recipients, back to 2015, with the name, the year, the abstract. Stop me if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
for that one, I'll say so there have been a couple of requests for a list or information of prior funded research grant recipients, just to have an idea of what research we've funded in prior years. And so I believe I included that with the last email for after the February meeting, but that is in process of being added to our website. So the funded research grant page will have probably at the bottom an area where the most recent recipients will be featured. So like their picture and name and abstract. And then the years before that, what we're thinking right now will be like an accordion drop down where you can select the year and then open that up and it'll tell you who the recipients were with their abstract and information. And we've been funding since 2015, so it would be all of the studies dating back to that time. Also looking at highlighting the funded research reports that we have in the bookstore, so that you can see on the website, when you're there, hey, there are these research reports available. And then you can, if you're interested, you can go to the bookstore. Those are always free for members to access. If you're not from a member institution, it's, I think, usually like $20 or $25 for the report, and that goes to the foundation, the ACUHO-I Foundation, who supports the funded research grant program. So trying to make, like I said, sort of a one-stop place to find the information. Same with linking to the past webinars that we've had as well. We don't have the same reports for endorsed research, but we do have webinar recordings. So on that page for endorsed research, we'd have links to those recordings too. I think that's all. So those are all things that are sort of in process, on the agenda for our marketing folks to do, and should hopefully be done soon.
And you mentioned data points of the month during our conversation.
Yeah, so this was back in January. We had an ACUHO-I staff retreat, so a couple of days where we were all together in person to do some training and brainstorming for the year. And one of the areas we talked about was social media and engagement with social media, thinking of our different functional areas within ACUHO-I and how maybe we want different strategies for engagement depending on what our area is. So for research, really thinking that LinkedIn and Instagram are maybe the best two platforms for getting the information out, based on what type of posts we're able to make, and guidance from the folks that post on social media and know more about it than I do, on the back end. But one idea was to do it like a data point of the month, and to hopefully get more engagement through that, sort of, giving out a statistic and saying like, so many institutions said this, that, or the other. What does this look like on your campus? And hoping maybe like a poll or some type of engagement to get more eyes on that, but also just to let folks know, like, we have this data, we want to know what it looks like for you, and maybe get them connected with the campus housing index, because that's where most of the data will come from. And we're always trying to increase participation there. So that's just one idea we threw out, and possibly doing the same type of thing in connections, not where we'd ask, like, can't really engage the same way, but where we would promote some type of data point or fact of the month, to highlight some research related thing.
Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So I think we're about to be at time. What I want for folks to think about is, well, we'll for the next meeting, we will provide an update on where we are with this, with our the conversation that we've had. And that next meeting is Wednesday, April 30th, 4 p.m. Tori, which Zoom are they using? This one or the ones that I sent prior?
So the March meeting is the only one that had to change, because
Okay.
the one symposium is going on right now, on the other Zoom. All the rest remain the same. So
Okay.
yep, April will
So-
be back on the usual one.
Okay, gotcha. Wednesday, April 30th, 4 p.m. And if folks could just bring any thoughts you might have about who we want to invite for a webinar. I would love if we had a couple for, what are we in? March. So it will probably be closer to, I guess, the fall semester timeframe, unless you're thinking differently, Tori, but we probably would need some lead time.
Yeah, I'd say if we had a really thought out idea at the next meeting, that maybe we could do something in May, but that is a tough time just with, everything. And then June is for us a little harder because of Campus Home Live, but that's the end of the month. So potentially if we wanted to do something earlier in the month, maybe, but it may be more of like a July through the end of the year timeframe for scheduling something.
Yep. So if you could just bring any of your thoughts to that meeting. And that's really it, folks. Thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll see you in April.